my world.
Yes, Margie, nobody told me about your world, by the way, but that's okay. I'm catching up, you know, slow but sure. You did way too much as VP2, okay? But that's okay, I appreciate it.
Too bad it's not a VP3 you can delegate to.
I personally wasn't on the table all that much. I just had fabulous volunteers.
I'm sure I'll be able to get lots of folks. Lauri and I had a good chat about what to say to the new volunteers about promoting the RASC stuff and what benefits you get with joining. So there truly are great benefits.
Good evening, everyone. I think we're back online now, hopefully. Sorry it's taken a bit of time to get started tonight, but we're using a different computer. And we still got a few little glitchy things in there. Who else? Does somebody in this room have their speakers on? John, I think your speakers are on your laptop.
Oh. That way we get to hear it twice in case we...
Yeah, so we're getting an echo in here. Sorry about that.
Hold on. Sounds like a 60s DJ.
So anyways, looks like we're up and running. Thanks to Alex Schmidt for bringing his laptop along and taking it on this evening because Joe was away. So welcome to the final Astro Cafe of this particular series. As you hopefully read in the announcement there, we'll be resuming the Monday after Labor Day so that we can concentrate on our outreach events during the summer and hopefully getting together more in person. I know that we're seeing people working on the getting the VCO. Yeah, sorry, Lauri, we didn't. Yeah, we've got quite a few different types of cookies here. I don't know if you can see them on the table. So we've got cookies and
marshmallow puffs.
Tidbits. Not offered by the host either. Just people brought them in. So thank you, participants. So on the agenda tonight, I have Randy wanted to talk.
Yeah.
And then David Lee. And
I also have an announcement from Sid by proxy. So okay. I'll do that at the same time.
Yeah, do that when it's your turn. And Ken, have something to share? Yeah. And was there anybody else?
I guess we should talk about the Star Party and introduce people to Saanich too.
Do you want to do it all at your turn or do you want to come back to that?
Sure. Let's do other people and then I'll start with that and then I'll finish.
Okay. So yeah, so if you're ready then David, we could start with you.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's great. Thank you. Maybe I'll start with Sid's announcement first. So everybody knows that Sid is the owner of the telescopes and he just wanted everybody to know there are plenty of telescopes to borrow. So not only are there telescopes up at the VCO, which I'm assuming will be reopening soon, there are also telescopes that are available on loan. So there's quite a number of Dobsonians, and I think he said that there were a few C90s. So those would be like Massitoff Cassegrains, but they needed a little bit of tweaking. So if you're interested in having one for a little while, he would get one ready for you. So that's the main announcement from Sid.
Oh, David, let me just add to that when I joined the club, I borrowed several telescopes from him, and it really helped me decide what I wanted. And so I just want people to get over that shyness or that energy barrier and borrow these telescopes. We have them there. He doesn't want them in his workshop. He wants them out to the crowd. So try an 8-inch Dom. It's an amazing thing to have in your house. You just pull it out and you see things that you won't see otherwise.
Yeah, so we're also planning on having some public outings. So I think I'm trying to convince Sid to bring a few of them out with us, and maybe they won't go back home with him. So maybe that's a strategy as well. So if we ever meet up at Cattle Point, for instance, we may just bring a few telescopes with us.
I want to add another thing, David. He is short of eyepieces. So people who have
yes.
unloved, unwanted eyepieces should consider donating them to the club.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so the thing I want to show everybody, if I can share, let me just try sharing here. So before I share, I just want to let everybody know I had a wonderful time giving a presentation to the Nanaimo group last week about Kitt Peak. And as a consequence of kind of updating my slideshow, I actually decided to take a workshop this weekend at Kitt Peak, well, virtually, of course. But I had a great time, and I just wanted to let people know about some of the aspects of their reopening. So people can see my screen here. I worked on about 3 images. Like, it was actually a PixInsight workshop, and I worked on a couple of images, well, 3 of them actually. And it was a great refresher, even though I've been using PixInsight since I took this course 4 years ago. There were just little odds and sods that I didn't really remember or didn't understand in terms of the tips. Anybody who uses PixInsight realizes that there are multiple ways of doing things. But I had a great time. Casey, who was my instructor last time, he was instructing this workshop as well. And I asked him whether he would come and join the astrophotography SIG sometime. So I'm definitely going to invite him. He's the winner of many APODs and is an excellent astrophotographer. So these are some of the images I worked on. I think this is the Gum Nebula. It was kind of neat to work on. This one I think is from Chile. I think they came from various places. This is M101, and I think this one is from a site that Casey owns in Arizona. And I'm not sure what this is. Any avid astrophotographers recognize what this is? It was a narrowband object, but I don't know what the object is. But anyways, it's one of the narrowband objects that we worked on. So Kitt Peak is reopening. One of the key things is that they're offering remote telescope services now. And I'm going to show you this image, which is kind of interesting. For anybody who's been working on the VCO, does anybody recognize this telescope?
Yay.
It is a OGS 12.5. And this is sitting in Kitt Peak's visitor center and is available for rent. But you'll notice that this is actually the telescope that we have at the VCO. And this is actually the mount we have as well. So we have a doppelganger down in Arizona. So this observatory is called Solario, and it's right next to the visitor center. You can see the visitor center right here, the edge of it, and the dome that's at the visitor center.
How much do they charge to rent this, David?
I think it's 300 and something a night, US. But you have it all night. It's all yours. They're running Nina on it. So if you know Nina, you can just remote into it and then run it. You could probably develop a bunch of scripts ahead of time. For an extra $90, you can get a guide. But there will be somebody, whether you pay that fee or not, available to help you out if something goes wrong.
So this is a good marketing tool, by the way. I'm now going to say on my VP2 activities, look what you get for free, which is the same as somebody down south is paying $500 a night for.
Now, if you can only get their skies, that's what you need to do.
But you know what? You know what?
Yeah, but it makes the subscription to the RASC's robotic telescope.
Yes,
very cheap.
They're in a similar area.
Yep.
Well, where are they, Bill? Are they in Nevada? I can't remember now.
No, they're in northeastern California somewhere.
California. Okay, yeah.
I've looked it up once.
So
yeah, you're right.
They're a bit further west and maybe slightly further north, but not much.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, everybody should kind of look into remote services now, since the availability of our our weather is so poor, there's lots of opportunities in remote sites. But yeah, they have the exact same setup. I was quite amused by that.
But David, ours has a whole bunch more stuff hanging off the back.
We do. And I actually mentioned to Casey that we had a QH Y600 and I'm sure he was quite jealous.
So does this have any filters or is it just a...
It is a one-shot color. I think it's a 294 MC as far as I remember.
071.
Or is it a 071? Yeah, it could be a 071.
Okay, so
Yeah,
David, this is a perfect segue into, do you think we should be getting an internet up on the hill so we can actually do our stuff remotely?
Well, I would certainly like to. I mean, we've looked into it in the past. We would have to assume that ourselves. It's not something the hill would help us with. I don't know. We could probably talk offline about that and see what we can do. It would certainly help us. Anyways, the very last thing I'm going to say about Kitt Peak is, if anybody's ever been there, there's a solar telescope there called the McMath Pierce. And the year that I visited, in 2018, it had been decommissioned for a year. And they were kind of just waiting until they got some funding to do something with it. And amazingly enough, they got funding a few years ago. And they now have a $4.5 million grant from the NSF, basically to create this world-class public outreach center based on that solar telescope. So that solar telescope will continue to run, and they will have in the bunker area, they will have a public outreach museum. And that will actually feed all of the Noir Lab, which is a collection of American observatories that include Gemini. They will be bringing in feed from each of those telescopes, including the Vera Rubin, which is yet to be launched. But they will all be utilizing this public outreach area. So don't know when it's going to be finished. They're about halfway through, as far as Casey could tell me. But yeah, I'm hoping to visit soon, whenever it completes. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, David. Any questions for David?
Where is Kitt Peak?
Kitt Peak is in Arizona. It's about 55 miles from Tucson, I believe. West of Tucson.
And so it's fairly far south in the US.
Yeah, it is. And it's about 7,000 feet up. It's not super high altitude. It's kind of baby high altitude.
Southern part of the state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Ken, you're up.
Sure.
And nice and loud for the microphone.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I just came across a recent issue of New Scientist, my favorite magazine. You can get free stuff off their website. Anyway, they had an article called Brave New Worlds. Nice title, eh? I thought the import was that it shone a light on a citizen science project, citizen astronomy project, that each and every one of us could be involved in, even if it's raining. The project is basically to examine images from a satellite called TESS, T-E-S-S, and they are looking for transitions across star images which may indicate the presence of a planet revolving about the star. And it turns out that although they have computers doing some of that work, the computers are not too good at picking up shorter term variations. So here is the website if you want to take a look at it. It's called,
just hold it up to the camera.
it's a very small type. Are you serious about the?
No,
give it to Chris, and Chris can type it in.
Yeah, I'll type it in.
All right. The website is zooniverse.org, as in universe, except U is replaced with zoo. Zooniverse.org. and look for planet hunters. And if you find a planet, they will publish a paper with your name on it. Yes.
Last topic.
And I think that's it.
Great, well, thank you.
Thank you.
So I think that's over to you now, Randy.
Okie.
Maybe you could turn the camera just a little bit.
Okay, I will share my screen.
Thanks, David.
Good. So first of all, let's just talk about some public outreach we have, as well as please do spend as much time as you can this summer up on the hill. And is Lauri aboard today?
She is.
Okay, so do give us a bit of a rundown of what you're hoping for this summer. The last weekend of August is going to be the Island Star Party, which this year is the 20-somethingth time it's being held, sponsored by the Cowichan Valley Starfinders. But they have, I think, very generously opened it up that we will now co-sponsor it. So RASC Victoria and possibly the Nanaimo Astronomy Group and the Cowichan Valley Starfinders will work together and make this fine island tradition even better. And the goal is to see it run for another 25 years at least. The party is at Bright Angel Park, very near Duncan. And I looked on Google and it's an hour and 1 minute from my house, which is very close to here in Fairfield. So nobody has very far to drive. It feels far because it's over the Malahat. But there is camping there. You can bring a camper. It's dark skies. There are flush washrooms. That's good. So I just want as much participation as possible with this. I think, as Reg has told us many times, the weather in August is better than in September. So I really hope that we get a nice clear sky, and that will be the last weekend, Friday night, Saturday night. And it's kind of, there's speakers in the afternoon, and then there's, public viewing overnight. And then the following weekend, Labor Day weekend, first weekend of September, is the Saanich Fair, which we're going to have a table at, and we're going to need to fill up a roster. And so do think of keeping that weekend open. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be in the country, so I can't be involved with either of these great events. But you can. Okay, so now we're going to talk about tonight. I first got hold of this. Are you changing something?
No, nothing.
Okay. I first got hold of the possibility that a meteor storm is coming a few weeks ago. It just came up on my Facebook, and I saw more and more information coming up. Now there's a veritable storm of information on the internet. But I want to go give it a bit of a background. So this is not what we're expecting. First of all, it's in Niagara Falls. But this is what was seen in, what was it, in 1833. But what we're talking about is a very small comet. It's called 73P, which means it's the 73rd periodic comet that was named, which seems very low, but it was discovered in 1930 by, get this, Arnold Schwarzmann and Arno Wachmann. So it is Comet Schwarzmann-Wachmann 3. And whenever you see a YouTube about it, they say that once and then they call it SW3 from then on. But yeah, it was notable because they, it was kind of like in that movie, they saw that it was coming straight at the Earth, and it ended up being, oh, I know the number. What was it? Anyway, it was closer than the moon.
Don't look up.
Yeah. Anyway, it came very close to the Earth. No, it was further than the moon, but it was still very close. I think it comes up in the talk. And the point about it is that it didn't get very bright. It was never bigger than a telescope object. I think it was magnitude 6.5, something like that. And then it wasn't seen again. Wasn't seen again. They knew it was every 6.5 years, but it wasn't seen until 1979. And when it was there, they found that it was 34 days later than it was expected. And that was because it had some pretty close approaches to Jupiter, and Jupiter really changes the orbit in a way that, at least at the time, was difficult to predict. I imagine now they're able to do it more accurately. Anyway, they did keep seeing it each 6.5 years, but always with telescope until September 20, 1995, when it brightened 400 times. So about 6 magnitudes. It brightened over just a few days. And it was almost at the point that you could see it naked eye, but certainly with binoculars in the dark sky. So something remarkable happened in 1995. Anyway, a couple of more times going around the sun, and the Hubble Space Telescope put its eyes on it. So this was over 3 days, and there were 4 big pieces, A, B, C, D, but they now have orbits for about 40 pieces of the comet, and they vary in period from 5.5 years to 8 years, something like that. So that they're stringing out. Now take a look at this one. So this was just a month later, and this was done in infrared with the Spitzer Space Telescope. And you see how they're all kind of following the same track. They're all moving around the sun at the same speed, but they got spread out. Fascinating. Okay. This is the makings of a meteor storm, because if the Earth happens to pass through a pile of the little bits that have been ejected from these bits of comet, then we should see a meteor storm. So it turns out the world specialists are here in Canada, at the University of Western Ontario, which I think is pretty cool. There's this Canadian Seymour, Canadian Meteor Observatory Radar, something like that. That's just outside London, Ontario. And these very clever people did a bunch of calculations and said that we're not going to see that breakup in 1995 because it doesn't actually come close to the Earth. What they said is here in May 30th, 2022, they figure from the, there's a whole bunch of assumptions that goes into this sort of thing, but they model something like 1 million particles coming off the comet. And they say, well, yeah, you know what? We're going to, between, you see here, the May 30th, May 31st, June 1st, we're going to go through some clouds of stuff, but they're from old 19th century passes. And, you know, you do see a bunch of meteors around this time, not always. It's sometimes you don't see any, sometimes you see 5 or so an hour, and they're called the Tau Hercules, even though they don't actually come accurately from the star Tau Hercules. They come from a place closer to Boötes. Have to move this a bit. No, I can't. Oh. Let's keep going. You're allowed to move. I did something bad, guys. There we go. So, I fell in love with this guy. I've been binge watching him. This is Joe Rayo, and he's the Channel 12 new weather guy in New York. And he's an amateur astronomer. He's been all his life. He gives lots of autobiographical stuff. And on April 5th, he gave this talk to the library in Yonkers, New Jersey?
New York.
New York.
It's just above New York City.
Okay, anyway, he gave, I mean, he's a news guy. He talks, he's funny. He has a good American accent that makes me laugh. Anyway, I highly recommend this YouTube, Night of the Shooting Stars, where he goes through the whole thing. And it turns out that kind of as a COVID project, when he was stuck at home, he got interested in Comet Schwarzmann-Wachmann 3. And he said maybe the calculations, the assumptions that went into the calculations that the team in at University of Western Ontario, maybe those weren't correct. They were thinking that the ejecta wasn't actually going to be quite as violent as it seemed to be in 1995. And so here's the basic path. So it gets out very close to Jupiter for much of its 6.5 years, but then as it zooms by, it goes right, crosses the Earth's orbit, right? And the calculation that the UWO people said is that the comet was going to be here, whoops, in August, that's it, that the Earth was going to have gone by, and 2 months later, the comet, or all that debris, was going to go past the Earth, and so that's why we weren't going to see it this year. But here he is. I love this picture. This is a screen grab from that video, but there he has the US version of the Observer's Handbook. So just proof that the RASC handbook is, and in another video, he talked it up, said how this is the best book for telling you about what's happening every day through the year. It was a very good plug for the RASC handbook. Anyway, he's got this kind of funky program called Dance of the Planets, and he set up 20 different orbits that were where he thought the ejecta might have been, and he did these calculations. And so what were the things that he figured out? it wasn't just any breakup. For the Bachmann-Schwarzman 3 to get 400 times brighter over 2 weeks, it was a very violent breakup as it went through the perihelion. And while the model that UWO uses had the ejecta mostly moving back and at speeds of like 10 meters per second, somebody figured out, Hori, a Japanese team, figured out that if it went about 30 meters per second ahead of the comet, then it might actually intersect with the Earth. And so what Rayo did is he did a whole bunch of models. And in particular, something that Hori didn't do is he took into account solar radiation. Solar radiation in the kind of silt or smaller, the micron-sized particles, they get swept by the solar radiation. And for reasons that I really don't understand, they tend to get pushed behind the comet. But they figure from the look of this particular comet breakup that the particles would be more often pebble-sized, and they're just got too much momentum and not enough surface area for the solar wind to, or solar radiation to affect them. And so they could be, there's a good possibility that there will be these ejecta, large ejecta, ahead of the comet, and therefore be able to be here tonight, March 30th, when that path crosses the Earth's orbit, rather than be when have the Earth go by and then come later. That was his point. So yeah, he was, instead of having millions of points all random the way that the fancy people do with their supercomputers, he just took 20 points. And this was one of his later models. And he showed that between particle 12 and particle 13, you could get a storm happening. Anyway, he published that in the RASC, Journal of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. Again, I'm really surprised that this American is using RASC as his means of communicating with the world. But this fellow, Jérémy Vaubillon, from, I love this, Institute of Celestial Mechanics and Calculations of Ephemeris. How do you get to work for an institute like that? Anyway, he is the computer guy who works with Western Ontario. And he basically said, yeah, Rayo could be correct. So Rayo was very happy to get this quote. So what do we know? Yeah, so Vaubillon and the Western Ontario people have now said, if it's going to happen, it will happen at 05:04 Universal Time. So that's 22:04 tonight, just when it gets dark. How about that? The other thing that's important is that they're going to come from the backside of the Earth. And so you're expecting really, really slow meteors, not the fast ones like the Perseids where they come banging towards the Earth. These are catching up from behind. And so if we see them, they will be slow and they will be rather large, but they're going to be close to the radiant. It's not as likely that you're going to see them very far away. I didn't understand why, but that's one of the things that they said. And then the question of how many. And this is where Rayo said, you know, it is the most inexact science. But in 2017, there were 5 an hour when the debris from 1941 came with 100,000 miles. He's American, so 150,000 kilometers of the Earth's orbit. And so he says, well, this time it's going to be a third the distance, so it'll be 3 times as many. Except the comet in 1941 was quiescent. The comet in 1995 was blowing apart. And so he says 14 an hour is a minimum. It could easily be 10 times that. It could easily be 1,000 times that. Now, when you say 5 an hour, that's the zenith, ZHR, the zenith something rate.
Hourly.
Zenith hourly rate. So what that means is if you were right under the radiant, and in this case, that would be in Baja California, then it would be spreading out in every direction. We're not that far. We're 30 degrees away from that. The thing that he said is that when you're at 60 degrees from the radiant, then you only see half the sky, that you would get half as many counts in New York. But we're pretty close, you know, cosine of 30 is not that far from 1. So the fact that we're not right under the radiant is not the problem. What is the problem? Number 1, it's still not going to be very dark. ZHR assumes 6.5 magnitude. And even in the best of times, we don't see 6.5. And if we go to Cattle Point, anybody have a guess what magnitude when it's perfect out?
5.
You can get a 5 there, right?
I think so.
Okay. But the other problem doesn't look too good. It looks actually terrible now. The forecast said partly cloudy.
Do you want to add David got his hand up?
Oh, David.
Well, I was just curious, why are they called the Herculeans if it's not coming from Hercules?
Well, because it was based on a poorly constrained orbit, and the orbit keeps changing when it bangs close to Jupiter.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm glad you.
That whole train of debris is going around in that orbit, and when it gets to, you know, it's like a quarter of AU from Jupiter, then it gets perturbed. So yeah, the fact is, it is closer to Arcturus than it is to the stars in Hercules. Okay. But this is from the, is this the same network that Sid is part of? This, what do they call it? Anyway, there's the, all the people who have those sky cameras that are connected together.
I don't think so, Randy.
Anyway, NASA runs a bunch of them. And over the last 3 days, there have been way more of these Tau Herculeans than there have been in previous years. So even if we don't get to see them tonight here, we have good chance that people in more favorable skies are going to see things. Gary.
Randy, this is awesome. You're an amazing guy for coming up with all this good kind of stuff. Like, whoa. How long do you think this will last if we can see it?
They're saying it's short. Like, I think they're talking about get there 15 minutes early, wait 15 minutes later. So, you know, I hope to be at Cattle Point at 9:45. I've got a lawn chair. And unless it really looks unfavorable, but that's my plan.
But we still don't know whether it'll actually be something. Even if the skies were clear, you don't know if it's going to be something or not.
That's the thing. That's the thing. If it doesn't happen, there's no surprise. It's just that it is allowed with the models, and so I just know I don't want to miss it if it's actually going to happen.
I was just going to ask that whether or not it was serious, but enough that you'd want to take a blanket out and cover up any triffins that you know.
That's a good point. No, there have been these storms like the famous ones in 1833, and he gives a great story about 1872 where Camille Flammarion went to Rome to visit the Vatican Observatory, and he was tired and he went to sleep. And then he woke up in the morning and they said, "Did you see the meteor storm?" And he missed it. He said it was one of his greatest regrets all his life. That's my story.
Questions or comments?
No weather predictions?
I have one for Randy.
Yes.
Could you go back to the all sky? Yeah, that's what I want right there. What's all the stuff over on the left hand side?
Oh, good question. I didn't ask that. I didn't look. So in general, you have the there's stream meteors and there are sporadic. You guys are good. Anyway, the sporadic are from old comets that have dispersed. And there's just a bunch of dust that we ram into. And in the handbook, there's a lovely graph that's from measurements done at Western Ontario, showing that there are these zones that are related to the Earth's motion and where the sun is, where you get more of these sporadic meteors than other places. So towards the sun, away from the sun, and in the path going where we're going, those are the places that you get more of them. And I imagine those are sporadics. I also note there's some blue points and some black points. I really should find out about
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
There's more to learn. Stop share.
Oh, for sure.
Well, that's the thing.
That is true.
Can I try and show something here? See if this works. I guess not.
It's white, it's cloudy.
Yeah, well, that's basically it. Good people. The Environment Canada cloud forecast is predicting the southern half of Vancouver Island to be clouded over tonight at 10 o'clock tonight.
Oh, Reg, do your job.
That model can be wrong.
Can I see closer? I see a little bit of light blue.
Sucker hole.
Oh, looks like that. Looks like there's a sucker hole coming up. Yeah. Who knows where it's going to be by the time. I was too negative.
It's going to be one of those nights, though, where.
So, Reg, I take it you're not going to be at Cattle Point.
I'm fairly close by. I might take a look at it.
I'm in Esquimalt at the moment, and it is lightly overcast here, but all the way. So there's light clouds and plenty of light around, more light than we want, but it's uniform.
I'm not feeling very optimistic. Is anybody else going to join me?
Yeah, I will.
Yay!
I brought a chair.
Yay!
I'm going to go up on my roof, but I don't hope for much.
People who are seasoned meteor watchers, how dark a sky? Like, if you can't see the Milky Way, is there any point?
You know, one question I have, it relates to, these sound kind of unusual. They're coming from behind the Earth,
yeah,
catching up, and they're slower. Does that mean they might be bright longer or lower or anything like that? Do you know?
What they said is longer.
Longer?
Yeah, Rayo said they're going to be slow, was the way he worded it.
Well, larger can dim.
Well, no, because he's expecting them to be large particles.
If they're large enough, I wonder if they punch through the clouds even we see something.
Ooh, hope not.
Oh yeah, I mean, there could be bolides.
Oh yeah.
No, bolide would be,
Exactly.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
so Sid's camera, all-sky camera is not up, I gather.
It is functional actually.
Oh, good.
It is up. He's not well. He's not well tonight, but I don't. Oh no, he did know that it was working now. He may not have mounted it yet. So you're right. It may not be mounted.
I talked to him this weekend and he said something about it not being up.
Yeah, he solved the problem though. He just needs to mount it.
It's a big tower.
Yeah.
If they're slow, it might be an advantage in that if there's several people watching, you'll see when it might be there long enough to tell everybody, look over there.
Yeah.
You have anything else?
I don't have anything else to say.
Does anybody else have anything to say this evening?
Yeah, I just looked up. So Randy, I don't know if you mentioned it or not. This is Gary here. It's going to be pretty well directly overhead at 10 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where the radiant. Yeah.
And you don't look right at the radiant because those are straight at you, but he did say that they are not likely to be those big grazers. That's when you're far from the radiant, then you see them going right across the sky.
So Randy, you're going to view at dusk. How long is it likely to last?
I'm going to stay till 10:15.
Okay.
Because tomorrow is a work day.
An hour and a half.
You get out there early and do a cloud dance to get the cloud.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a sun dance?
Whatever.
Whatever.
Yes. We can't do the move. Certain ones.
You don't want to do the wrong dance.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we've had a lot of clear skies. Has anybody been imaging?
No, maybe tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be clear tomorrow night.
Recently.
Chris, I have a couple of things if there's no other people that are presenting.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to ask if there were people that were interested in joining us up at the Center of the Universe for this coming Saturday night for our star party, June the 4th. The weather doesn't look fabulous, but we're hoping that there might be a few people just to kind of get if there is anything to look at, then we'd like to have some people up. And again, it's just if anybody is interested, please email me or give me a phone call or whatever you'd like to do. Then put if you think that you're coming up this weekend, we just need to keep track of the people who are up there and keep a list so that we have that ready for the people down at the bottom of the hill to take. And the last star party was great. We had lovely weather and lots of people were watching through the telescopes and looking through the telescopes. Thank you to Dave Payne and to David Lee, who were trying to get the Celestrons going up there. I know we've still got some work to do to get those up and running for streaming. Sherry Butner had the 16-inch up and going with some nice views of I looked through and saw M13 So things are kind of starting to open up a little bit.
Actually, Lauri, earlier we did have solar running.
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
You have the solar telescopes running. And I also did hear from Ken Mallory, who we haven't kind of seen for a little bit, and he's interested in coming back up to the hill. So that would be really nice to see him back up. So if you think that you're coming up, just put your name in the chat, and I can take those off. Simon Blouin is going to be the presenter. He's from the University of Victoria and is going to be talking about, oh, thank you. You're way ahead of me. Talking about the white dwarfs. And is Series A and B are kind of one of those series. So he is he's going to be speaking to us. Oh, thank you, Bill. Thank you. If people are interested, he'll be giving 2 talks, one at 8 o'clock and then one at 9. And the 8 o'clock one, we stream to a virtual. So we're doing a virtual tour, a virtual program at the same time as we've got in person. Because we're only allowed up 125 people up on the hill, we completely gave away the tickets in less than 48 hours this time. We didn't even get to Monday before all the tickets were gone. So we know that there's some people who still may want to be part of the presentation or see the presentation by Simon. So that is going to be streamed to YouTube and to Zoom, and we'll make sure that those links go up on the site for people to be able to get to them. Eventually, we would love to be able to get the Plaskett presentations also streamed, but we haven't quite got there yet. We're still working on all of that. We had some really terrific new UVic students. 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 4 new UVic students that came up last time, and they're very interested in working on the streaming. Some of them are interested in working on planetarium programs. Others are interested in working with the Plaskett telescope. So we've got some, and out on the deck and some of the telescope programs. So we're really looking forward to having some of those new people. Thanks, Jim. That would be great. Thank you. So the other thing that please feel free to let me know if you're coming up, and then if you can't, to watch the program online if you would like to. Second, the tickets are now on sale. For the GA, they are $25, I think, for 4 days worth of programming. So it starts on the Friday, the 24th.
20 for members.
Sorry?
20 for members.
Oh, 20 for members, right. Okay, yeah, absolutely. And for youth, it's even less. We want as many people to come on board as possible. Even if you can't make all of the different programs, there's going to be a great speakers that are going to be there. Sarah Seeger, Natalie Willette, Robert Cardinal. We've got Alan Dyer doing a 2-hour astrophotography session. We have got a whole number of people, of young people that are being giving presentations, one of whom is Nathan. And we also have our esteemed Randy Enkin going to be doing a presentation as well. Please come on in. It's all virtual completely, so you can kind of just dip in as you wish over all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And for us, it's kind of from in the morning, 9 to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon or so. Whereas in the East, they're starting at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and then going through until the evening. So lots and lots of things to do. There are the partial list of what's happening is up. We're not completely finished all of our programming, but we're almost all there. So that's up. And if anybody gets the newsletter, the Monday newsletter, that should have come to you, or so I guess it actually came on Sunday, and the program is in there. So if there's any questions, just you can.
Gary has his hand up.
Okay.
Hi, Lauri. I have a question for you about, I haven't been up to the Center of the Universe for a long time, and I noticed that quite a few displays in the display room are now not there. Can you update me on what the plans, us as a group, for what the plans are for that room? And when I was there maybe 10 years ago, they were complaining that there is no engineering talent to help get the displays going that were there. And we happen to have a lot of engineering talent now in the club. Is that something we could be working together with Friends of the DAO about to get some of the displays going that used to be there?
Yes, the displays are 22 years old. I mean, it was all made in 2020 or 2000. I'm sorry, the year 2000. It was opened in 2001. So a lot of the things that were up there 15 and 20 years ago have now been dismantled and are not working anymore. And the displays, of course, are all quite static. That's not what happens in museums anymore. Things should be very lively and interactive. And so there's a huge refresh needs to be done up at the center, but it will take an awful lot of money to get that redone. We are working with the NRC to possibly look at something down the line. We would absolutely love to have some people working on some projects for us. We've got one that's a laser and light with lenses and mirrors. And we've Sid and David have been helping kind of start to look at that and get that that settled out. We would be thrilled to have people showing us a little bit about what we could put up there. There are some places, there are some spots where presentations could be made and set up. So we'd be thrilled, Gary, for sure. But some things have been, some of the older ones, like from 20 years ago, have been dismantled.
Okay, okay.
So,
but there's a need that I just wanted to kind of put that out there right now to this crowd. There's a need for that.
Oh yeah, and for interactive displays, anything that could be done. Oh, I mean,
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Death, yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Lauri, I have a question. Going back to the GA,
yes.
I have registered for the GA, but I won't be available on the Saturday because I have a course.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, is there going to be any taping done of the talks?
Yes, we're hoping that for the people who come, that because there are concurrent sessions, it's not just one theme and everybody gets to see everything kind of all that's on there. There's concurrent sessions happening this year, that things will be recorded, and then you will be able, it will take a little bit, I mean, like to get everything recorded and get together, but people will be able to go back in and watch sessions that they weren't able to.
Yeah, so if I miss Saturday, I can catch up on it later.
Yeah, you'll be able to come back in. And of course, because we're kind of at the other end, unfortunately, some of the things will be finished by the time you probably will be finished, because we're 3 hours ahead. So yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Just so you know, I just had a look at in the direction toward our tourists. The cloud is somewhat thin at the moment.
So there is
a little bit.
So it's teasing us a bit at the moment.
Just so you know.
If you walk out of the game, John, and then come back, you'll tell us a different story.
Yeah, a little bit more.
Lauri?
Yes. Yes, Alex.
Yes, I'll be there on Saturday, this coming Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to write all this down. Yeah.
And I'll be bringing up the Galileo scope so that you can try your hand at seeing how easy it is to even just find the moon. And like I've done, I've figured out how to put a solar filter on the front end so you could take your shot at burning your eyeballs out trying to find the sun.
Okay.
It works really well on the sun. You put some of those solar glasses on it and it works. Yep. You put them on the front of the scope.
You put on the front of the scope.
Or just put them on yourself and then melt them with the solar scope or the Galileo scope. No, yeah. Rich, did you have something?
I was just going to say this is my first time in this room here, and it does not televise well through the Zoom sessions. It's really a lot bigger than it looks, and we could have a wild party in here. So, and also being the last Astro Cafe of the season, I just want to say a big thanks to Chris and for hosting, and Joe Carr, who's not here, and Randy for all his presentation. It's been a really great way to keep everybody together. So I really appreciate it. Thanks very much, guys.
Important that as we go forward, we're going to set up a roster of some sort. And I think we're talking about being kind of fierce. If there is no host on some of those Mondays, we're not going to run. So there's a real motivation to to take up the role. So we'll set this up over the summer, but we're going to need for each Monday a host and a webmaster, and I hope we'll have devoted equipment that we will know and understand, so we don't have to fool around at the beginning, and we're not always dependent on Joe being the setup. That's been our good fortune, is that Joe has been here all the time. So, but seriously, this is a wonderful institution. Chris has now for 2 years kept it going, and it's brought the community together, and I'm just so happy about that. The hybrid is great. We get to have our cookies. We get to actually see people's faces here. So we're going to keep doing that, but we need people to sign up. And we'll be communicating this by email over the summer. And starting when, Chris?
September 12th, I think it is.
Okay.
I believe Labor Day is on the, let me just confirm this because I don't want to get it wrong. Done that once already this year, and I don't really, the 12th.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Randy, in Joe's absence, what equipment are you using tonight?
Okay, so tonight we have, and Alex can talk more about it. We're using Alex Schmidt's laptop.
Yes, from UVic.
Okay.
It's a Dell.
And but external speakers, because we weren't getting the volume with the laptop speakers. We've been able to, hold on a second there. We were able to make, with Joe's, we were able to use the laptop speakers. This one's a little quieter. So we've used external speakers, and Randy brought in a microphone tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess if a team wanted to improvise and bring their own equipment, it sounds quite doable then.
Yeah, and sorry, it took us a little bit longer to get started tonight, but it was because we had a new set of equipment, which we've not done before, but Alex has never done this before, and it's working. So it shows you that it's
fluke of luck.
It doesn't look scared.
So so it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, with some basic equipment. And the goal, as Randy said, is for us to actually buy some equipment as a center. And then it'll be kind of like the VCO, the people get trained on it and you just set it up and run it. So, and basically the hosting role is to sit here and pretend you know what you're doing.
Although I saw you were putting in the websites as people were mentioning them.
Yeah, well, you can't see me in there because I'm not in the camera view tonight, but I'm sitting here with a laptop on my lap. So, there, I'll scare everybody and see, there I am. For those of you who are seeing the screen.
Chris, how are you connecting there?
So we're all on Wi-Fi. So Randy has a laptop on his lap. I have a laptop. John had a laptop, and we have Alex's laptop. So we're actually using 4 separate laptops on the Wi-Fi in the room, and it seemed to be working fine for everybody, I think.
Yeah. So if everyone had their volume on their laptops on, we could have had a barbershop quartet.
There you go.
Yeah.
So whose Wi-Fi is that anyhow? Is it part of the school?
It's no, it's part of the Fairfield Gonzalez Community Association.
Okay.
So we're in the downstairs of their building.
Okay.
And there's a router over on the desk back there.
Looks pretty robust.
Yeah. They've improved their network since we used to use the portable. The portable had an amplifier in it, so it wasn't very good. Whereas they now have their own hubs in each. Yeah, it's right there. Anything? Well, I think with that, then we'll thank you all for attending this evening. And thanks for the people being here in person. We had 11 people in person.
Oh, show up the book.
There we are, yeah, including Chris in the book.
There's one more thing that I might want to show if we still have time.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, sit down, everybody. There, you're up, maybe.
All right, one moment. I just got to find it.
Just make sure your spotlight is to stay on there.
No, I have like 20 copies of it, so I need to find which one is the right one, but I think it's this one. Here. So I wanted to make a poster about where we are relative to other things in the universe, just for people who want to feel dizzy all the time. So it's like, this is probably what we're used to, but this is relative to the solar system and the galaxy. And then something which I wasn't previously aware of called the supergalactic plane, which isn't really defined by anything other than just the positions of nearby galaxy clusters. And then a few places on Earth with their equivalent alignment relative to this image.
Interesting. That's clever.
Anyway, I'll keep working on that, but just wanted to share that.
Very good, Nathan.
It's clever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, again, thank you very much for attending, and have a safe summer, and hopefully everything will go well up on the hill, and we'll see you again here in this location in September.
And keep looking at your emails. There'll be information coming up as they arise.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
On the hill in the summer.
And the GA.
And the GA.
Yes. It's not happening in the next few months.
Gather Town's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have to go into Gather Town. Yeah. And the Saanich Fair. Oh, okay, this is not fair. We're all watching you eat.